Oh boy. Alright, let's see. Let me get people in here. Um, okay. Let me. I'm trying to post the link real quick in a couple places. Let me get this going, and then I'll start talking about stuff. Because this is insane. Let's see. Um, Give me one sec, guys. Okay. So, we've got interesting news. Now, it came from one whistleblower who contacted Fox News, apparently. And a lot of people are going to be like, oh, God, you're using Fox News. Well, yeah. I mean, if only one person contacted one news source, they're going to be the first ones to report it. Now, I did find other stories about it from other places, but Fox is the originating source for it, so that's why I'm going with Fox. I have stuff from Slate that we'll be talking about in a minute, but today we're going to be talking about why it is that fascism is on the rise in America, and it's not what you think, okay? It's the far extreme left that is uh, leading us in that direction. It's big tech. It's everything. We'll get into it. But first, let's go into the Bank of America story, okay? And I'll tell you how that kind of, you know, is connected to the rest. So, at least one person was interviewed by agents based on info from America's second largest bank. Bank of America handed over customer data to feds following Capitol riot. So, there's been an enormous amount of talk, not just this week, but over the last month, about violent extremism and all that stuff. We're hearing stuff about it nonstop from the news, right? We're hearing it from, you know, uh, we're hearing it from cable news, some Republicans, federal law enforcement, the Pentagon. I mean, just this week, the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, ordered the entire U.S. military to stand down while investigators cleanse the ranks of political extremists. And we'll get into that too. I have the stories on that as well. Of course, we're hearing it from the business establishment, Wall Street, the tech monopolies, massive multinational corporations. And I mean, Wall Street was freaking out and they started calling people from Wall Street bets fascists and far right and all this stuff because they're threatened. Okay? It's ridiculous. At one level, uh, no one here is going to say that political extremism or white nationalism or anything like that is good, okay? Because it's bad. But when you start likening everyone and everything to it, it's because you have an agenda you're trying to push and an ideological goal in mind, okay? So it's not enough to be against something, all right? You have to expressly go out and say, uh, that you're against something. You need a sense of what you're looking for, a clear picture. You have to define the terms. The remarkable thing about this public conversation we're having is that no one's doing that. On Tucker Carlson tonight, he has obtained exclusive evidence that Bank of America, the second largest bank in the country with more than 60 million customers, is actively but secretly engaging in the hunt for extremists in cooperation with the government. Bank of America is, without the knowledge or the consent of its customers, sharing private information with federal law enforcement agencies, Bank of America is effectively acting as an intelligence agency, and they're not telling you about it. This is in direct violation of your Fourth Amendment rights. The whole purpose of the Fourth Amendment is so you are protected against unreasonable searches and seizures of your person, your residence, your vehicle, your private places, and the government has to get a warrant, reasonable suspicion to come and search for information, for physical evidence, anything like that. And yet here is a company who expressly states that in their terms of service that they are protecting your privacy. They have your best interests in mind. Without a warrant, they're just turning around and giving your private information to the feds. So now don't get me wrong. Bank of America by no means is the only bank that I believe is doing this. There's no way. I believe that probably most, if not all of the national banks, the nationwide banks are probably doing this. Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo already had a bunch of controversy, so I am very much sure that they're doing it because they were creating fake accounts to meet quotas, and they were signing you up for stuff that you didn't want. So in my mind, Wells Fargo probably was the first one to do this, and Bank of America was second or third or whatever. So if you bank with a national bank, there's no getting around this. Which is why I'm not going to advocate for you to leave Bank of America and go to Chase or go to Wells Fargo, because chances are they're doing it too. What I will advocate for, the most safe, I guess, you could probably get would be a credit union. It's very inconvenient because most credit unions only have a couple locations, and you have to go to that particular location to deal with your money. And a lot of the time, you have to use ATMs that charge you a fee in order to withdraw your money. But which do you value more? Do you value more the increase in probable privacy versus having to pay a little bit extra to withdraw your money from random ATMs? Or do you want Bank of America or Wells Fargo or Chase or whatever to send your information to the federal government when you haven't done anything wrong? Because here's the thing. You know what? Let's keep reading, and I'll tell you. Okay. In the days after the January 6th riot at the Capitol, Bank of America went through its own customers' financial and transaction records. These were the private records of Americans who had committed no crime. People who, as far as we know, had absolutely nothing to do with what happened in the Capitol. But at the request of federal investigators, they didn't get a warrant because a warrant would require them to have a warrant for one specific individual, which would mean they would have to have a bunch of different warrants to access different individual bank accounts. But no. They just said, "Oh, hey, Bank of America, can you just, just do us a solid?" And Bank of America was all too ready to get on its knees, drop the fucking pants of the federal government, and suck its dick. Okay? Bank of America searched its databases looking for people who fit a specific profile. Oh, you mean white? Because I'm willing to bet that's probably the first criteria they put in. Because for whatever reason, whenever you sign up for stuff, whenever you answer questions for whether it be bank transactions or employment, they always like to ask you what race you are for no reason. I never understood that question until now. Now I get it. Now I totally get it. Here's what the profile was. Now here's what they're saying the profile was, but I'm willing to bet there was other criteria that isn't making this list. Anyway, 1. Customers confirmed as transacting either through bank account debit card or credit card purchases in Washington, D.C. between the 5th and the 6th. So if you just happen to be in Washington, hell, if you lived in Washington, you're being investigated right now if you made a purchase in those 2 days. Yeah. Purchases made for hotel Airbnb, RSVPs in D.C., Virginia, and I don't know what MD is. Is it Maryland? I think it's Maryland. After the 6th. So, yeah. So if you happen to be going on vacation after the 6th to any of these areas, you're being investigated by the federal government. Any purchase of weapons or at a weapons-related merchant between the 7th and their upcoming suspected stay in D.C. around Inauguration Day. So if you just like guns and you live in D.C. or in an area around D.C. and you wanted a handgun, you're being investigated by the federal government. If you bought a magazine because your old one, the spring wasn't working too well, you wanted to get a new magazine, you're being investigated by the federal government. If you just happen to buy beef jerky from a gun shop, because some gun shops have like a little snack thing at their register, you're being investigated by the federal government. Airline-related purchases since the 6th. That one just says airline-related purchases. So if you live in DC and you went on vacation to literally anywhere in the world and you bank with Bank of America, you are being investigated by the federal government. So literally anybody who lived in or around DC, in Virginia or Maryland, and you made a purchase, you withdrew money, you even looked at an ATM, or thought about looking at an ATM, you're now being investigated as a fucking terrorist by the federal government against the Fourth Amendment because they have no right to that information without a warrant and specific probable cause. But Bank of America has violated every single one of its customers' privacy agreements and given that data to the federal government. And like I said, I don't think that it's just Bank of America. It just happens to be that we have a whistleblower from Bank of America. Like I said, Wells Fargo, with all of their bullshit that they pulled the last like decade, I'm willing to bet they're doing the same crap. Chase, I don't know. I don't know much about Chase's controversies and what they may or may not have done, but they're one of the national banks. One of the ones that it does business nationally and is one of the larger banks. So I'm willing to bet that they may be doing something similar. The first thing you should notice about the profile is that it's remarkably broad. Any purchases of anything in Washington, D.C., any overnight stay anywhere in an area spanning these three jurisdictions and hundreds of miles. Any purchase not just of legal firearms, but anything bought from a weapons-related merchant, t-shirts included, and any airline-related purchases, not just flights to Washington, D.C., but flights to anywhere, from Omaha to Thailand. That's an absurdly wide net. I have to agree with Fox News. And don't get me wrong, I don't always agree with Fox News. But in this, I do. That is disgusting. Bank of America has identified a total of 211 customers who met these thresholds of interest. At that point, Bank of America turned over the results of its internal scan to federal authorities, apparently without notifying the customers who were being spied upon. Federal investigators then interviewed at least one of these unsuspecting people. That person hadn't done anything wrong and was cleared, and that is the person that contacted Fox News. Now here's the thing. We don't know anything about this person. For all we know, it could be a left-leaning person, and this just turned them into a right-leaning person. I'm going to bet it probably was a right-leaning person, but who knows? This is such a disgusting violation of your privacy. I have no words. Because this is just banks, right? Think about what you put online. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. TikTok, I mean, we've got so much invested in social media and online banking and stuff like that. Your entire life is run by these companies. And think about it like this. Google has more information on you than probably the FBI, the IRS, and the NSA combined. If you've ever watched one of the hearings that Google CEOs and Twitter and Facebook have gone to, they're asked very pointed questions that people already know the answer to because we know that they collect that data. Man. So anyway, imagine if you were that person. The FBI hauls you in for questioning in a terror investigation, not because you've done anything suspicious, but because you bought plane tickets and visited your country's capital. Now they're sweating you because your bank, which you trust with your most private information, has ratted you out without your knowledge. Because Bank of America did that, you're being treated by like a member of Al Qaeda. That's disgusting. And I don't understand. Wow, man. Dude, they asked Bank of America by not denying it. They didn't say anything. Uh, well, here's their statement. We don't comment on our communications with law enforcement. All banks have responsibilities under federal law to cooperate with law enforcement inquiries in full compliance with the law. The phrase "in full compliance with the law" it implies the Bank of America had no choice, but that's not true. They did have a choice because there was no warrants. It's disgusting. It's not even clear what they did was legal because uh, it could not be legal and could in fact be challenged in court. Uh, One attorney pointed to 12 U.S. Code 3403. It's a federal law that allows banks to tip off the feds to any information that may be relevant to a possible violation of any statute or regulation. So maybe, maybe. But my question is, then why did they not look at the records of people who are known to have been there that went in, and then they got those people's data instead of just casting a wide net, catching all of these innocent people in it, and then giving that information? Yeah, no, it's disgusting. No, I can't. No. Let's see. Something about messaging apps. Blah blah blah. Okay, so here's the thing. Like I said, I don't think if you bank with any national bank, I don't think that your information is safe. I would suggest going with a credit union, but who knows? Because I don't know much about credit unions because I personally don't bank with credit unions. Unfortunately, I bank with fucking Bank of America. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, what do I do? Because I'm in this position where I hate Bank of America right now. But what bank do I go to? Like like I said, Wells Fargo, pretty sure they're corrupt. Chase, they're probably corrupt. Any bank that I can think of is probably in the same boat as Bank of America. The only difference is nobody has said anything yet. So is it even worth it to move to another bank that might do it, but I don't know? At the very least, now I know that if I don't want Bank of America giving my information to somebody, I might as well make all cash purchases and just use them to hold my money. But that in and of itself has another risk attached to it. What happens if they want to freeze my bank accounts? I'm innocent, but they just want to freeze these people's bank accounts who happen to buy something from somewhere at some time. And it happened to be coincidentally that something completely unrelated happened, but now they're freezing all these. Like there's just too much that I can't know, so I have no idea what I'm gonna do. I will say I'm not going to open any more bank accounts with them. And as soon as I pay off my credit card, I'm canceling that account, obviously. But I don't know what financial institution I can turn to for this not to happen. Now, let's move on to a new story. First, I'm going to show you the Slate one, and then I'll show you the Fox News one because I want you to see that I'm using left leaning sources, but Fox Fox articulates things better. So Biden must purge military and law enforcement of white nationalists. Yes, because apparently everybody who has a Gadsden flag as their license plate or used Parler was a white nationalist. So it's pretty disgusting. Um, so this article just goes on to talk about how like apparently white nationalists have gotten into all these things, and they talk about Kyle Rittenhouse and all that crap. So you want to read this? I've linked it down below. You can go and read this trash. But for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna go with the Fox News article on it because they get straight to the point instead of all these other additional crap that doesn't really matter. Pentagon orders stand down across military to investigate extremism in the ranks. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin issued a stand down for the next 60 days. President Biden's newly appointed Pentagon chief Wednesday issued a stand down for the next 60 days, ordering military leaders to spend time talking to troops in an effort to weed out extremism in their ranks. After it came to light that a number of former and current military members participated in the riot at the U.S. Capitol last month. Okay, number one, the ones who participated in that were stupid, and they're probably in jail right now. Right? If they were really extremists, they probably went to it. When they were doing the security for the Capitol after the riots, they started going through individual troops and doing exactly this. Now it's for the full military. But when they were doing it for that, literally, if you leaned right at all, if they found anything that suggested that you leaned right, you were ousted. You weren't allowed to be on the protection detail for the Capitol, including a Gadsden flag as your license plate. You weren't allowed to be in. If you used Parler, nope. If you have right-leaning ideological things on your Facebook or social media, nope. So this caught both conservatives and libertarians, and you weren't allowed to serve. Let that sink in. Who does that leave? It leaves left-leaning individuals who probably think that you shouldn't have guns as the primary ones that are functioning in the military, at least for the Capitol detail. Now they're talking about weeding all those people out of the military completely. What does that tell you? That tells you that they're trying to streamline the military into a single ideological block. Sounds a lot like what's the term for that? Fascism. Oh, right. Yeah. Sounds a lot like fascism, where the military believes one thing. And we've seen it with all these mamby-pamby bullcrap. Now, mind you, I've never been in the military, but I have friends who have been in the military, and I've talked to other people that have been in the military, and they've been talking about all these like social justice-y things that are getting into the military, like sensitivity trainings and all this other crap. You combine that with the fact that now they're trying to find out who is a right-leaning or center-right individual or libertarian, and they're gonna oust them from the military. Oh man, you're looking at one ideological block of people who will be serving in the military. So, Austin, alongside Army General Mark A. Milley, the chairman Milley? I don't fucking care. The chairman for the Joint Chiefs of Staff has met with service civilian leaders and service chiefs to discuss the problem of extremism. While extremism has been a problem in the military in the past, uh, the that ugh, while extremism has been a problem in the military in the past, Kirby told reporters at the Pentagon that the January 6th insurrection in the Capitol, which left 5 people dead, was a wake-up call for military leaders. He said Austin wants to get a better handle on the breadth of the problem. Acknowledging some of the extremists who stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6 were active duty service members and others were military veterans, Kirby maintained that the vast majority of men and women who serve in uniform and the military are doing so with honor, integrity, and character, and do not espouse the sorts of beliefs that led to the kind of conduct that can be so detrimental to good order and discipline in the fact is criminal. In a meeting with military leaders, Austin said that while the numbers may be small, they are not as small as anyone would like. No matter what it is not an insignificant problem that has to be addressed. Austin is still trying to figure out how he wants to organize the effort to attack the problem from an institutional perspective, possibly with a task force. They always create these task forces. Biden declared domestic extremism an urgent national security threat in the wake of the riot. The crowd that breached the building as lawmakers were prepared to certify his election were overwhelmingly white and included members of far-right groups, the Associated Press reported. National Guard deployed about 26,000 troops to Washington to help secure the inauguration, and is keeping 5,000 to 7,000 troops in the city until mid-March at the request of federal law enforcement agencies. Yeah, okay, I can understand maybe why he, put them there right after January 6th, and then put them there for the inauguration. But why is DC still under military occupation up to 2 months after the inauguration? Yeah, okay. That doesn't scream a military coup-esque type thing going on. Now, I'm not saying that it is a military coup. I'm just saying it doesn't look good. Rooting out extremism within the ranks, much like efforts to do away with racism and violence against women, is difficult. Part of the problem is defining extremism. Service members may hold whatever political or other beliefs they want, but they are held to much stricter standards on actions they are allowed to take. Okay. Please explain to me why, then, you're saying that they can hold whatever political or other beliefs they want, and if they don't take any actions, then they should be allowed to serve, yet people who didn't take any actions but had bad views were removed from the detail for the inauguration. What you just said does not make sense with what you did a month ago. So don't even, not even, it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So don't try to equate, or don't try to say that the actions are the thing that determines it. It's obviously the beliefs. Okay. Oh, man. Service members can't actively advocate for extremist, supremacist, or criminal gang doctrine, ideology, or causes, or participate in any way. Right there. They can't actively advocate for extremist, supremacist, or ideological causes. See, that's the thing, though. The radical left, the establishment, they keep trying to equate anything that goes against them as supremacist, extremist, ideological in any way that connects with that. Like, perfect example, Wall Street Bets was said, the hedge funds were part of this corporate crony establishment, said and or worked with the media to try and say that people on Wall Street Bets were right-leaning, far extremist, white supremacist, alt-right people because they were hurting the corporate elites. So, based on this, if you participate in the Wall Street Bets subreddit, you're an extremist or a supremacist. You hold an ideology that they would have to weed out. If you think that that transgenders are biologically whatever sex they were born, that's extremism. You can't serve. That is you need to be weeded out. If you have a Gadsden flag, or you do the OK hand symbol, or you like the Pepe the meme, Pepe the Frog meme, you're a white supremacist, and you can't. You need to be weeded out. Do you see how this is happening? Do you see how it is that all of this is leading us into we're currently, in my opinion, in a pseudo-fascistic state? And we get further and further towards fascism the longer it goes on. Let me read you the definition from dictionary.com. A governmental system led by a dictator having complete power. We don't have that yet. Forcibly suppressing opposition and criticism. That is happening every single day. Every single day. Every single day, people on YouTube with right-leaning ideology are getting banned or censored. Facebook is censoring people. They just completely wiped out Parler, which was its own complete social media that was competing with Twitter. Amazon nuked them. How exactly is that not suppressing opposition and criticism? By me criticizing, like, this video could get taken down simply because I'm criticizing what's going on. Regimenting all industry and commerce, that's starting to happen. Because I don't know if you guys know who Alex Jones is. I'm sure you guys probably all know the turning the frickin' frogs gay meme and all that stuff. Well, he was ousted from social media, but his company was kicked out of banks, so he couldn't facilitate commerce. Steven Crowder, his store, or some of the shirts that were on his store, YouTube wouldn't allow him to sell them. It wouldn't allow him to link them in his videos. People with opinions like mine, or libertarian, conservative, anything that is center right, gets demonetized on YouTube. Hell, even progressives who don't go along with the ideology of the far left or the establishment are starting to get demonetized, and they're complaining about it too. So industry and commerce, that's starting to happen already. But the opposition and criticism that is being suppressed has been happening for a long time. And emphasizing an aggressive nationalism and often racism. Now, aggressive nationalism, if you look at some of the things that the leftists say, they say, that America is bad, and they're not really going after an aggressive nationalism, but they're going after aggressive ideological track. And racism. Because out of the two sides, unless you're far right, like alt-right, you're not racist. Like I hold conservative and libertarian views. I'm not racist. However, people on the left, on the far left, for the most part, are indeed. And the problem is that the Overton window has been shifted so much that instead of it being far left, now it's just mainstream left. If you're center left, you fall under the category of being a normal person. But if you're just left, and we see this with the Democratic Party and what they've become, you're probably a little bit more racist than most people. And the reason I say this is because of the identity politics and the way that they portray themselves. They like to sit there and say that white people can't be, or black people can't be racist, and that all white people are racist. That we've been indoctrinated our whole lives, and that we're inexplicably racist, and that we can't have an opinion on things because we're white. That's racist. And when you combine that with the aggressive ideology that they like to push, I think that it probably fits this bottom category. Now, there are other definitions that also include the fact that a lot of the industry often sides with the state. The corporations tend to side with the state, and you can see that as well. You can see that Facebook, Amazon, Google, now Bank of America, banking institutions, and there are other businesses. Like one of the businesses I work for, I'm not going to name it because I still currently work for them, and a previous business that I used to work for, I will also not name them because I don't want to burn bridges. I notice things when I'm working there that I see. They'll have sensitivity training, or they'll have like LGBTQ day, or this and that. And I'm sitting here and I'm wondering to myself, what would happen? What would happen if if the federal government asked one of these companies for information? I'm willing to bet they'd give it to them without a warrant. Employment records, stuff like that, private information, customer records. And I have to sit here and wonder how many businesses truly, outside of firearms manufacturers, would stand up to the state. I'm willing to bet not many, which leads me to believe that this entire thing, our entire society, is on the verge. And then you see now Biden, I mean, he put out what, 43 executive orders in his first like 2-3 weeks in office. That's an insane amount of executive orders, and his only real like reason for doing so is because Orange Man did bad things. Like he screwed people out of jobs. He's done this, and quite honestly, the executive branch of government has too much power. They've been accumulating power too much. And part of the reason that I say that is, think about it. When you go and you go and vote, how often do you personally go and look and see what each individual that's on the ballot stands for? I'm willing to bet that you really only focus on a couple people that are in your state, but the primary focus is the president and who the president is. And people look to the president as the leader of the free world. The only reason that you should be saying that is not because he has all of this power, but because he leads our military, right? That would be the only reason. However, it's with each administration, it becomes more and more true that the president holds more and more power, because executive orders are not law, and yet they're treated that way. Things that the president says are treated like they have to be followed, when there is a check and balance system in place that is now out of whack. We need to go back in time to when all the branches were equal. Biden has been making some moves that look like he wants to pack the court. We're looking at a complete system takeover from the Democrats, and with them being left-leaning ideologues, it's looking more and more like we're leaning into fascism. And it's funny because they were saying Trump was the fascist, yet he didn't really do anything, even with powers. Like, I mean, he didn't sign all that many executive orders over his presidency, and he actively would would want to do things but couldn't because he didn't have those powers. Yet other presidents in the past have just said, "Screw what I can and can't do," and then they did it anyway, like DACA. So I I I I I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing between the collusion of Wall Street, the crony establishment, our government, big tech, and now our financial institutions, and they're all targeting the same types of people, the same people who have right-leaning ideologies, who like guns. It's looking more and more like we're going to have a problem, which is why I'm seeing all these calls for separation, for secession. I mean, Texas is drafting up paperwork to do just that. Other states are saying that they might want to join in on it. And it's sad because, our great nation has stood for quite a while, but it looks like it might not. We might end up in a very bad place. Now, another reason why I think we're leaning into fascism, and I'm sure you guys have seen one of my other videos. We were talking about we were talking about what was it? It's on the tip of my tongue. HR 127, that terrible bill. And actually, I'm going to be putting out another video probably tomorrow about some other bills that we need to talk about on this channel and my arms channel. But there's multiple different firearms bills that are in place that are or that are going to be voted on. HR 127, one of them, and these bills are to curb gun ownership. 127 is worse than even Canada's gun laws. So that should tell you something. We're supposed to be a free nation who have a right to self-defense and arms, yet this bill would be more restrictive than a country who doesn't have that right, codified in law. What does that tell you? That tells you that the government, the people in government right now don't care. They are just going to ram through whatever they want because they want it. That kind of sounds like a dictator to me. The only difference is it's a lot of dictators instead of only one. I think that that we're going to see a very wide gap. We're already seeing wide gaps when it comes to ideology. The right is willing to go on multiple different news sources like Slate or the Daily Dot or MSNBC or whatever and look at news and see what everybody's saying. The left is not. They refuse to listen. They refuse to learn, and they refuse to entertain anybody else's ideology or viewpoint, causing a huge divide in this country. I don't know how we're going to fix it. I have no idea. But when you see all of this put together, uh, the warrantless seizure of your private information from banks, the censorship from big tech, and now apparently somebody suggested to Biden that he needs to create a what was it? It was kind of like the Ministry of Truth uh, from Orwell's 1984. I don't remember what it was called. It was something like fact finding something or other. I'm sure somebody will be able to to find it. But something a task force to combat misinformation. We're living in messed up times, and everybody needs to really, really, really be mindful of all of this. If you there's a video that I really like to show anti-gun people. It's a video of a Holocaust survivor talking about the experiences, and that the first couple things that happened was what we're seeing now: suppression of information, suppression of opposing viewpoints, stuff like that. until one party was in power. And then when one party was in power, they started going after the guns, and they would say, that it was necessary to prevent crime. So they would have you register them. And then they said, well, that didn't work, so we're going to take them. And then after that, that's when the persecution started. We have a corrupt government, beyond corrupt, and I'm not sure how to fix it. But I see there's a huge divide. I don't know what to do. I don't have any real advice to tell you, but I do think that it's important to talk about these things. Um, so, you know, I encourage you to if you bank with Bank of America, to think about it. I've got a lot of thinking to do about what I want to do on that. Because, like I said, it's not an easy solution because, in my opinion, the other banks are doing it too, and they just haven't been found out. So, anyway, guys, that's it for today. If you guys enjoy these live streams, these videos, go ahead and like and subscribe. Make sure to hit the notification bell so that way you get notified when I go live, when I post a new video. And if you want to see that video tomorrow on the other gun control bills that are coming out, I will be posting that tomorrow. We're going over three gun control bills and one that has to do with the ATF. And I'll be going over those, and we'll be seeing what's going on. Make sure if you like this channel, you might like some of my other channels. I do have a gaming channel. It's called Biopilot Gaming, or Biopilot 17 Gaming, and then I have another one called Biopilot Arms. That's where I talk mostly about gun stuff. So if you're actually primarily wanting to know stuff about that and not so much politics, that channel will have more of that on it. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys watching, and see you guys tomorrow for a new video.